Since I'm not that far from lunch, I will give you the menu of the WP2 session. First, Lucia and I will present a general overview of the WP2 objective and work plan. Then we will focus on, I will give you some insights on the methodology that has been developed so far. It's only a proposition, so we will discuss it tomorrow during the workshop. And if we do have some time, then we're going to exchange and learn from each other on the monitoring system that is in place in each region so that we can actually make sure that the plans we have developed are realistic and that we can make sure that they will be done during the project. To begin with, almost a year ago, I will start with the presentation of WP2. Almost a year ago, when we started working around the project, there was a question that really rapidly came out, and this question was, do we really need to do a diagnostic of the OR participation to H2020? There is indeed a widespread belief that says that our regions are affected by some specific obstacles, some specific challenges that hinder their participation to H2020. So we know this figure. Oh, sorry. We know this. We know that we are small, we know that we are isolated, that we're not part of the great networks that dominate the H2020 scene. We know that our problematics, our field of interest remain largely out of the scope of the calls. And these elements are even recognized by the European Union. They are part of the treaties, they are part of the communication from the Commission. So if there is such a consensus, why should we engage in a time-consuming analysis? What is the point in doing one more analysis and one more diagnostic? Well, first of all, we need to question collective representations, because these elements, they are not facts. They are basically representations. They are part of a discourse, of a vision that says that our regions are handicapped and that they can't do anything good. But we do believe that we have difficulties and that to access to H2020, we claim that our performance is limited. But how do we really compare to other regions? We do have some insights from the Regional Innovation Scoreboard, but for instance, there are no data for the French OR. And as for the H2020 is concerned, we don't have any information. The second reason that justifies the fact to engage in a diagnostic is to acknowledge the diversity of the OR. We do share some similarities, but there are also singularities in each of our territories. We know that being subjected to the same rule of law doesn't mean that we are the same. There are some key differences between our territories, and especially when it comes to H2020. Some are really good performers, and other regions are newcomers to the scene. And we know that we need to recognize this diversity. And treating the OR as a single unit is not only a limit to comprehension, it's also a limit to the effectiveness of the policies we'll be implementing. Because we know that effective policies should always be grounded on local situation, should be grounded on facts, on a real diagnosis. And we can't really rely anymore on a one-size-fits-all approach that says that all measures will be good for all the OR. We need to make sure that the policy we are implementing do correspond to the bottlenecks, to the challenges that really affect each region. And this approach is actually recognized and by the European Commission. In its last communication, the European Commission insisted on the fact that we should have a differentiated approach of each OR, that we should go from this one-size-fits-all approach to a more tailored vision. The fourth reason to get to this diagnosis is to work together, to learn from each other. You know that some partners know perfectly their ecosystem. They know what the blockages are to H2020 and others don't. And guess what? The whole point of a H2020 project is to work together. It's a collective adventure. So in a sense, Forward is a wonderful opportunity to share knowledges, to share tools, to share practices and return experiences, and to work together to improve our participation. And by helping each other, we will also help ourselves. We will progress in a way we can access to H2020. And the last reason is to create knowledge. You know that that the whole point of H2020 is to create and to spread knowledge around the Union. And we sometimes insist, or we frequently insist, on the idea that we should see the OR as living labs to design solutions that could be exported elsewhere. And what we want to do in the Forward project is precisely to develop a methodology that could be exported, replicated in other territories. And we do have especially in mind the outermost territories who want to increase their participation to H2020, but we could also work on a methodology that could be used to structure and to animate research and innovation ecosystem in other regions. The second question that came out when we designed the project was, okay, you want to do analysis, but what is the subject? What are you going to analyze? The easiest way will be to strictly focus on H2020 access, but you know that the results to H2020 depend from a broader range of factors that goes beyond and well beyond the individual performance of your researcher or their ability to connect to the right team or to identify the right call and write a good proposal. You know that that H2020 is a symptom in some way. It's an indicator of the performance of your regional research and innovation system. It reveals the capacity of your region to develop singular and excellent knowledge. It also indicates the capability of your region to connect to great networks or to remain isolated. It also questions the efficiency of the policies we have developed. And if we don't tackle all of these issues, then our action, our efforts will be basically pointless. We will stick to where we are. To increase the participation to H2020, we need to enlarge the vision. We need to adopt a complex approach that will highlight the bottlenecks, the strengths, and the obstacles that our region are facing when it comes to increasing the effectiveness and the performance of our regional research innovation system. To do so, the good news is that we are not alone. For the last 20 years or 30 years, there has been a very dynamic field of research that's been developed in the European Union that is called the Regional Innovation System approach. And this approach is basically used by all policymakers in the Union to structure and to animate the regional ecosystem. So what we want to propose you is to capitalize on the work that has been done so far and to take the most and the best of the instruments that have been developed by this school of thought and to apply it to the regional ecosystems of the OR. So to do so, what are we going to do? We are going to implement 5 different tasks, but I will first give you some insights on the rationale and objectives. So the 3 objectives of the project of the WP2, as you can remember, is to describe the OR RDI ecosystem. So that's the first point of a research of a regional innovation method. That is, we need to know and to understand what are the components of the system, what are the regional stakeholders, what are the performance, how do they connect, how do they connect in the region, and how do they connect to the rest of the world, to external partners. That's the whole idea, so describing the system. Then we need, of course, to analyze the performance and to highlight the critical obstacles to H2020. And the last objective of the project is to develop action plans that could increase the participation of each region to H2020 and at the same time build a common vision, a common strategy that will be implemented in all territories. So to give you an overview of 5 tasks. So first task, so methodology, then mapping, analysis, diagnostic, and then we'll get back to the joint strategy. Till the end of March, the first step will be to define a common methodology. This methodology will be used by each region, so it's very important for us that we develop this methodology together. We are also, of course, task leader for this task, but we want to share some insight, we want to share some tools, and we want to co-develop these ideas and figures with you. This methodology will be composed of a common definition of the regional innovation system, a template to map the components of each RDI ecosystem, and a template for Horizon 2020 participation. We will also develop guidelines and templates to conduct the local analyses for your regional community. So, as you can see, the second task will be the mapping. So that'll be kind of a long process for some regions. Other regions do have the figures, so it will be a copy and paste operation. But the whole idea of the mapping tool is to share the results with the other task of the project. The result of the project will be used to build the dashboard, the monitoring system that will be developed in the task 7. And we will also use the data that will be collected to build the regional platform that will highlight the capacities of the regional, of the OR, as well as the project. So you'll do the mapping. It will take some time for sure, but I will guarantee you that the information that will be collected will be used to maximize the result and the effect. So the third action that we need to do, the third task, is the analysis. The idea of the analysis is to capitalize on the data that will be collected and to mobilize the regional community, researchers, entrepreneurs, and transfer structures as well, to question your system, to highlight the main strengths as well as the obstacle that hinder the participation to H2020. And this is a really important point because we're going to engage in a real large analysis, but when it comes to the action plan, we're going to shrink the vision to H2020. We're not here to design a new risk-free strategy. We're not here to design a new approach that will transform the way we're seeing the OR. We're here to understand, to point in the system on the specific things that hinder the participation to H2020. So to do that, we need an approach that will point at the direct or indirect factors that influence the participation, but the action will be focused on increasing the participation to H2020, just to reassure you. Once we've done that, we're going to capitalize on the data and the analysis to draft a regional report, and this report will basically give you some information on the regional profile. What is the region's strength? What are the obstacles that it is facing? And what are the proposals to increase the participation? And we're going to exchange on the results together. We're going to share the results together during a workshop that will be held in Brussels by the month of September. So as you can see, we have 5 months, 6 months that will be really active, and the last tasks that will be presented by FRCT and OCR is task 2.5, dedicated to the joint strategy.
Thank you, Philippe. This task 2.5 will be of our responsibility, FRCT from Azores. It has also a link to the work package that we are leading, because it's the joint strategy that will be also, as you're going to see all through the presentation, important also to give inputs and receive inputs from the work package that will be work all through the 36 months. So the task name is Co-Creation and Joint Strategy for the OR RDI ecosystem performance. It will be our responsibility, but it's important to stress that all partners will be involved to credibilize and fulfill a goal that will be also for the benefit of all of us. And we'll start at the month 8th It will also be fed with all the work that will be done in the beginning of this work package 2 that already started. I think, is it working? Oh, okay. And it will finish 2 months before the end of the program. The vision here is to present a common vision, mission, and values on a way that we know where we want to go, how we will do it, and what are the values that will lead us to this final vision together, with the intent of promoting, supporting, and improve the way we also participate in the EU framework program. Here we have a vision of the whole work package 2, and how the task will be inside this work package I will develop. So in this case, we have the milestone 10 that will be very important, that will also already have the first draft of the joint strategy that will develop all through the months of this task, and will have its highlight would be finished in the 34th month. It will be based on the WP2. It makes sense because it will be based on the diagnosis and the needs that will come out of the diagnosis, and the mapping where we'll also have more clear vision of the actors involved, and also the link here with the WP4 of our leadership that will feed through knowing better the needs and the actors, which capabilities do we have to work in. This national approach will be in the first stage to design the document. Like I mentioned before, the initial vision of the mission, vision, values. Also, this will propose orientations in several levels that will be also worked through the work packages, capacity building and training in the work package 4, the networking actions in work package 5, the policy making that will be also on the work package 6, and in communication in the work package 8. This also to be engage all the project partners in a way that we will exchange the ideas, the good practices, and build from the basis this joint strategy in peer learning and mentoring activities. The joint strategy, it's also, we put it into 3 phases, which will start as co-creation in a brainstorming where we'll all together will exchange visions to create this initial draft of the common vision and missions and values. In the second phase, beginning on the month 10, will be the creation. So through the working groups, the advisory board that will advise us also and orient us in several ways. We'll be collecting also information to feed on these joint strategies, especially through the work package 2, like I mentioned, that is fundamental we are in, and also on the work package 3. The last phase will be the validation, will be the 3 last months, where we can engage also the different actors at the several levels in this final co-creation of the joint strategy. There will be several interactions with the other work packages. This joint strategy will be, in a certain way, the umbrella that will also feed and also give to these different work packages. Namely, this joint strategy will contribute to the thematic working groups. The networking actions will be also a guiding point that will guide the kind of networking that will be engaged in a more engaging and productive way. Also, the capacity building, like I mentioned, and it's our responsibility. We are work packages leaders, and also the work package 6 that is essential to create the link between the policy making and the joint strategy that will be guiding it. Also, the work package 7 will allow us to know in stage we are and give us the measures if we are going through the right path on achieving this joint strategy in a better, more productive and beneficial way to the different partners and ORs. And I think now I give the floor to Philippe. Thank you.
Okay, these is an illustration of the work plan that is gonna occupy us for the next 6 months. As you can see, it's pretty complex and simple at the same time. We'll go into details. So, as you can see, the document is structured around 5 different categories. The first thing is the work that's to be done by all outermost regions, all partners. Then the task leaders, just right there. And then you have the deliverables, the final, and the work that will be used in other WP. If we start with the methodology, so the idea is that we're in charge of developing the common methodology with the help of the other partners, and these methodology will be, so that's the one that will be distributed by the end of the session. Then we're going to work together to transform it and to adopt a common methodology. These methodology will then be used for data collection. You can see the idea is to use the Excel file, the tool, to monitor the different data that are available in your regions. Then we have a bottom-up analysis that will go from approximately month 4 to month 6, and then we'll capitalize on the work that has been done to enlarge the vision and to improve the diagnostic. And these things will be used by Nexa to make a comparative regional, if it works, sorry, a comparative analysis. And this work will be shared among all of us during the common session. If we go into, I will then give you an overview of what has been done so far. So the first subtask that has to be done is to agree on a common definition for regional innovation system. We'll do that tomorrow during the workshop, but we have gone into detail on the literature that exists on the regional innovation system, and we want to propose you tomorrow an approach and a definition of the regional system, and we're going to discuss that tomorrow. The second task that has been done so far is to develop a template for the mapping of the regional system. So this document is already available. It's printed right here, so take a copy before leaving, and we will discuss it tomorrow. It is organized in 9 or 10 categories. As you will see, there are basic information on the regional profile. There are information that are dedicated to the regional innovation scoreboard, for sure. There are some info about the RIS 3 priorities, information about the RDI priorities, about the policies that you are implementing, as well as significant initiatives, info about research capabilities, information about research and indicators as well. And we have tried to compile the major indicators that are basically used through the literature, being from the OECD, from the JRC, from the European Union. So the indicators were not invented. We try to identify the best indicators. Of course, you will see that there are plenty of indicators. We're not sure that we're going to be able to complete all of them, but that's also one objective of the Forward project. That is to illustrate the fact that we do lack some data to really know what is going on in our regions. So we'll do as much as we can, but if we can't go through it, it's no big deal. There is also, we have developed with my team another tool that is dedicated to H2020. Unfortunately, we developed it quite late, so I won't be able to give you a printed copy right now, but we will discuss it tomorrow afternoon, and I will send you tonight an electronic version so that we can consult it before we work on it during the workshop. And it's basically the same process. The idea is to collect as much data as we can on the profile of the actors that take part in the H2020, to collect data on the existing H2020 proposals, as well as on the projects that are currently going on, so that we can identify some regularities on the most determining factors that explain the performance. All the data that we're going to produce will be transformed by Nexa into dashboards and illustration that will be used during the project. So that's our promise. We have developed at Nexa an observatory which is in charge of collecting the data on the regional level and to transform it into visual identities and visual information. So basically, all of us, all region, will be responsible of handling an Excel file about this region that will compile all the information being on the regional system or H2020, and then we'll extract these data and aggregate it into the platform using a business intelligence system, and we'll then produce the dashboards that will be made available to each of your region. The last task that we need to go through is the production of guidelines and templates for the good practices collection, for the survey, as well as the workshop. We've been working on it for the past month. It's not yet available, so we are looking forward to share this information with you by the end of the month. And we will discuss it together, of course, to improve the propositions and to make sure that it corresponds to the needs of the different stakeholders of the project. And that's it for the presentation. If we do have some time, I think that would be useful that we can share and learn from each other on how advanced the monitoring system is. What kind of information do you have? Do you think that your monitoring system is pretty performing? Or do you think that you're going to need that you will be a real challenge to collect the data and to nourish the diagnosis? So if some of you want to share with us, that'd be really nice. Otherwise, we are, of course, eager to answer to any question you might have on the methodology. Thank you very much.
Thank you for a great presentation and discussion. Should we concentrate in more than Horizon 2020? Should we think about Horizon Europe, for instance? Because it's kind of late to...
I know it's definitely too late to influence even Horizon Europe, I guess. That's the challenge. It's a point that is really important and that we need to address right now, actually, because we know that if we want to have an influence on Horizon Europe, we should be ready by the end of May at the latest. So that's a responsibility
This year, right?
of this year, right now. Yeah. We know that the budget is actually going on right now. We know the negotiations and that the drafts are going. So I think that's a point we need to address via the advisory board, for instance, and to make sure that we do have some representative from the European Commissions, from people that could actually become ambassadors of the outermost regions, that we can share with them some insight and make sure that the conclusions and that the recommendations of the OR are well taken into account into the new policies. Otherwise, we will wait for the next programmation in 12 years or so to make sure to have some concrete results. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Should work on that. Yeah.
And the other thing, just we have all our information already in digital format, and we have a portal that we can view.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
But the issue is we lag a few years. So
yeah.
The latest year we have is, for instance, indicators from 2017. So that might be an issue.
Well, you know, in France, we're pretty good at archaeology. That's a good field of research. And when it comes to the OR, usually you have the information that goes back to 4 or 5 years for the more recent. So we know that the diagnosis will be kind of different between the different versions. And as I was telling you before, it's also part of the project to highlight the fact that we do need to work on the monitoring system in each region and to lift the obstacle that exists in some region, and especially in the French OR. But that is due to the national organization, which is pretty specific. It's kind of a post-colonial legacy. So we do hope to progress on that. And if you want to share data right now, that'd be with a real pleasure. There is a copy for each of you. So if you want to have a look at the documents, we will discuss it tomorrow. I'm sure most of you will have the data, others don't. The idea is basically to improve this document, to say, okay, these indicators make no sense at all, or we should add this one. Maybe you can share also on the availability of the data. So we will divide you tomorrow into subgroups, and the groups will be working either on research, others will be working on a specific subject of H2020, others will be working on the regional innovation scoreboard. That's how we plan to do that. Make you react and adjust the indicators that will be used tomorrow. Okay?
So in the sense that there will be some lag between the different regions, you might want to consider in this mapping tool looking at some statistics, yearly averages, 5-yearly averages, things that can provide us some indication and be able to compare different regions, because we don't have the same years, but we might have the mean of the last 5 years, for instance.
It's always a trade-off between the ideal as a researcher, that is to have long-term and vision and to have the most precise data. And of course, I would dream of that. I will dream to have, for each region, the long-term vision and to have information on the last 20 years or so. But I guess that some regions don't have this kind of information. That may take some time. So this is one of the work we need to do right now. That is to define together what is the range of information we're going to collect, how long are we going to get back, and what is the year of reference we want to address. So that will be done through the comparison of the available data for sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Philip, for a very nice presentation. I wanted to point out the fact that there are already some information from the past that could be used.
Yeah.
For example, in ERANET Biome, there was a collection of project funded and programs. Biodiversity is included also then, and they're in a database. So, I mean, we don't need to start from scratch. There might be something there that could be useful too, and we should take it into account.
Yeah, that's a really good remark. The objective of the WP2 is not to elaborate a diagnosis, a global diagnosis of each OR in 2 months. We know that we will capitalize on the data available. The idea is to collect this data, to make it available to each and everyone, and to compare the regions. I wasn't insisting on the need to highlight the singularities of our different regions. And we do believe that during the 2 or 3 months that is coming, we will need to base ourselves on what is existing. So the templates, as I was telling you, are made of indicators that are well known, well used, for which you have already the figures. So this is to ease the process. We don't want to redo everything. That's the idea. Okay. We will focus on the analysis and then the action plan. That's the real thing important in WP2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I may just to get back to your remark. If you have identified sources of information that may be used in the project, don't hesitate to share with each other. That'd be really nice, so that we can actually work together. There are some fine research articles about the participation to FP7, for instance. We do have also information and good research article about the structure of research and innovation systems. So maybe you can work on sharing together and drawing together the best articles and the best methods that could be useful for anyone who is going through the diagnostic. Shall? Do you want to go there?
Yeah, I just want to remind you, I'm sure you know that all Horizon 2020 projects which have been funded are public.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this big database where we can do advanced search and search, for instance, even by city or region, and so get the whole list of funded projects.
Yeah. We'll use the CORDA for sure, and the CORDIS database to do that. We will give you some information on how to use it if you don't know it. And there is also great business tools that could be used to identify the actual and potential connections with other regions and other partners. I was thinking about tools like Expronova, for instance. So what we can do, if you agree on that, is at the end of the first mapping of the regional stakeholders that constitute your system, if you want, we can use Expronova to make a kind of first to give you some idea on what are the actual connections, what are the partnerships. We can do that for you if you want, because we do have the codes, so that'd be easier, I guess. If you guys have the licenses, you can always do it. But yeah, we'll try to help you as much as we can in the process.
I'm wondering about the data you want to collect.
Yeah.
What are the nature of this data? What kind of, what are the characteristics of the data you want to collect?
Are they quantitative or qualitative? Is that your question?
Both.
Okay, there are both type of data. As you will see, there are plenty of quantitative data that are extracted from the main publication, original and innovation system, as well as H2020. You will find plenty of them. And there is also, and this is part of the project, the idea of associating the regional community through surveys, through workshops, so that we could collect very precise and very qualitative data on the experiences of the people that have engaged themselves in H2020 of EP7. So we work on both. That's very hard data, and then we use this pretty qualitative data to design an action plan that is adapted to the needs of the stakeholders from the regions. So that's the idea. We'll have some time to discuss this tomorrow, for sure, in details, but we insist on the qualitative vision.
Is it important to identify the networking that is going on as far as?
I think it's part of the project, and if we want to have a good view of what the regional
fund
system.
distribution networking, so you have all these dendrograms that shows you where.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about the idea of using Expernova or other systems. They help you very much to draw the connections and to identify what are the networks that are actually implementing. And it will be also useful to connect to the best networks once we have identified the regional field in which we want to engage ourselves. And I think that having a look at the network, considering the external links, are definitely part of the diagnostic. Because if you want to know what the system is, you need to know how it is organized, but at the same time you need to know what are the connections, how it is influenced by external factors, how it is eco-organized, how it inscribes itself into an ecosystem that's larger than itself. So that's precisely what we are going to do. It's a large task, we know it's huge, but that's the whole part of H2020. We need some ambition. We need to do something that at the same time is exciting for people who come from research background as well. And
in that regard, that will be useful for the next programs, because these networks or these clusters of influence rarely change over time or over a 10-year period or 20-year period. So you will that will be useful for the next program. And
as you know, the Commission will insist on conditioning in the Interreg program to the implementation of risk-free strategy. So it will take a larger part in the program, and the whole point of Interreg will be to develop networks that will be able to bring concrete innovations, demonstrators, platforms, things that will be tangible. So in a sense, it is really important for us right now to identify the thematics in which we want to be strong, to connect with each other in the outermost regions, and then to share with other, and enlarge the circle with external partners. That's how we're gonna do it. Yeah. We'll see.
Thanks for the presentation, and I really expect to have something very interesting by the end of the exercise, because it seems very exciting. I wonder if it's possible that that the results of this exercise will be presented to our policymakers at one step, because most of the time they have, I would say, not the exact idea of the RDI ecosystem. We know it is crucial for the next programmation, and to give them some graph, some clear view, and so they could really grab what's the key issue in order to ease the process and to faster.
Yeah.
When could it be possible regarding the timeline?
If we get back to the timeline, then as we'll see, okay, we go right here. So with some, we expect the different region to elaborate the regional data Excel file by the end of month 5 or 6. So that will be around June, I guess. Once we collect the data, we'll transform them into figures and to dashboard that will be made available to all of you. So it will take us no more than 2 weeks, I guess, to transform this. So you could have these well before drafting your regional report. And I think that the elaboration of this report is especially the opportunity to associate your regional policymakers so that they could be part of the diagnostic. I know it won't be easy for each and every one of us, because we want to make something this diplomatic that could be heard of our regional governments, but at the same time, we need to be honest in some way, and we need to insist on what the blockages are and how we could lift them. So I think that maybe we may have 2 reports, maybe one internal for each and every one of us to discuss it and to know how we could improve, how could we lift the barriers through sharing and learning from each other, and then we'll have, of course, the diplomatic version that will be transmitted to the European Commission and to policymakers. Well, thank you very much. We'll have some time tomorrow to exchange on the availability of data. We have included these items into the Excel tool. So we have some we were based on stereotypes with the idea that the French OR share the same problems, that the Portuguese OR have the same information available. We're not sure if that is really true or not. We'll see that tomorrow. And that's the point of the exercise. Well, thank you very much. Don't hesitate to take a copy.